Hey, ladies and gentlemen, how are you doing? My name is Lionel Alarcon, and I'm doing the presentation today for a business proposal to a problem that has been noticed on. It's been ongoing for quite some time now, and the reason for this presentation and the reason for a solution to that problem is to be able to identify uh, the problems that are affecting Navy recruiting right now, how morale is low, uh, the uh, the fact that Navy recruiting is not working efficiently towards its goal and such things. The content of this presentation is going to have such things. We're going to state the problem, the research that shows exactly what has caused this problem to begin with, and then we're going to focus on the solution. A solution that is going to bring short-term success along with long-term success as well. We're going to speak about the implementation of the solution and what we're going to need to look out for. We're also going to need to have an evaluation, a proper evaluation of the effectiveness of the solution, which hopefully the solution is long-term and not just a short-term fad. Furthermore, so the problems pertaining to this research include retention. A big part of the problem in the past year, or past 2 years, should I say, is that retention rates for the Navy recruiting have been at an all-time low. And considering that this is a very, it's a very good billet to hold, a good job to hold in order to advance into the next rank. It's looked at very highly by higher ups who look at our packages later on and noticing the differences in how people are going elsewhere. And so the retention rate for the Navy has dropped, and so has the lack of efficiency. The lack of efficiency, recruiters are working 20 to 30 hours more per month than the previous 2 years, which is significantly big increase per month. If you do the math, you're looking at an extra week of work almost. The quotas have risen for recruiters, which has been noticed, but there has been a lack of training and mentoring, which I think is leading up to the lack of efficiency. So I think they go hand in hand. The lack of efficiency is because of the lack of mentoring and being able to train. The next is the advancement. Recruiters are not making advancement like they were a year ago or even 2 years ago. And that's a big concern. Navy recruiters who come to recruiting duty, do so to make the next rank, to advance. This is a sought after duty where you come here to make rank, and the fact that it has been going down is showing a significant alarm. And by the numbers, recruiting force has grown by 20% in the past couple of years. This graph right here displays how many recruiters have been assigned to recruiting duty in the past couple of years, and you could tell the gradual increase, but yet you also see on the right hand side the class hours for recruiters has dipped, and in actuality the class hours have gone from 280 to 150. That has really alarming, because now you're getting more recruiters into the force with less training, not capable of being able to do their jobs. So, and the solution to some of those things is it could be a couple of things. Something that we ranked high on the solution matrix, actually the highest of the ranking, was mentorship and on-the-job training. That scored 28 points over rehiring of former experienced recruiters. Incentives was third. Both those scored 25, so they're relatively close to mentorship on the job training. What I'm going to go with, though, my business proposal is to mentorship and on the job training. The reason why that is going to be a great solution for our problem is that it solves a couple of problems. It solves the morale dipping down low by increasing the amount of training. Now people they know how to do their jobs, and by knowing how to do their jobs, they also are able to work less, more efficiently. So now you're knocking off the efficiency part of it, and hopefully seeing your production numbers increase. So contracts per recruiter do increase, and so with that increase, that morale starts going up a little bit higher. Recruiters start having a little bit of ownership, and from the advancement cycle, you get sailors that want to do better, and they start studying more for their exams. They start doing more for their exams, and it creates an all around good culture for everybody in there at recruiting duty to be able to have a sense of belonging and a sense of knowledge that they would want to pass down. Um, Along with this, it also, I know I mentioned the other two before, and I mentioned those two for a purpose. The rehiring of former recruiters, experienced recruiters, and incentives programs actually provide a way for you to use all three of these in the same solution. Probably later on in the future, first things first, you want to set up the mentorship program because that's where you want to get to the bottom of it, and then afterwards rehiring former experienced recruiters, the incentives program. So they're just going to boost numbers, and they're going to continue to create a culture of excellence in Navy recruiting. So the research for a solution was based on the all services ascension data, which is a forum that used by recruiting to be able to identify where the contracts are coming from. And what we noticed was that the Air Force had been doing so well, and the Air Force has actually managed to overshoot their goal by almost a minimum of 3% on average every year. So, and the reason for that is they have more training on average than a Navy recruiter does. In fact, and since the dip of Navy recruiting in classroom hours for recruiting, we have seen that Air Force recruiting never dropped the time that they spent in classes. Yet they somehow managed to overshoot their goal by nearly 3% at average. Most the other branches are all falling behind. We're either meeting goal or we're just making it, or just missing it. So the Air Force has got the right gear, and I think we could tailor our solution to this problem by implementing it in such a way where we don't necessarily increase the classroom hours, but we increase the on-the-job training, and that will increase the knowledge that our recruiters have, making them more efficient. The other thing to mention was the introduction of an NTAG, Navy Talent Acquisition Group. Now these NTAGs, they had just started coming out. The first one came out of Naval Recruiting District, Louisiana. What's important about the NTAG is that the NTAG uses one recruiter per station for one job, raising efficiency for that job. So instead of a recruiter doing 4 or 5 jobs at a time, they're now doing one job and able to put in more people. This gives them more time to have for going to school. If they want to continue recruiting, overachieve, then that's fine too. Qualifications matter as well in recruiting, so it's something that they could do on their off time, work on their qualifications. But the combination of doing a mentorship program with the NTAG is significant because it allows two different things to work. And on one end, you're working with mentorship you're building up sailors to become better people for the community, better people for the Navy, for that matter, and finding the United States finest to join the Navy. And on the other hand, you're taking 1 million jobs from a recruiter and shrinking it down to one. So those two things are really big for the implementation or for the success of the solution. The next one is going to be the implementation for the solution. How we're going to do it. When you think about how you implement a solution, it's not easy. It's never. It's not always fun. It can be fun, but it's not always fun. So the first things first is you're going to want to train the senior leadership. That's the first and foremost. You want to get them all involved. They have to be all in order for everybody else to fall in line. So you train them, you give them a 2-week course, Monday through Friday, 8-week class. And this is going to allow them to understand the program better, and they're going to also be able to push it better once they see the results, once they see the benefits that it's going to be able to have. So next step, so after those 2 weeks, you're going to want to get a training plan for the year. This training plan, the first month, it's going to start the first month, first Friday of the month, about 8 hour long class. And you're going to have every supervisor and recruiter inside of that classroom, and they're going to be training on what the mentorship program is, points of contact. We're going to have manuals, not necessarily a by-the-book manual because everybody mentors different, everybody trains differently, and everybody's mind works differently. However, having a place to go to in case of a situation would be fine, a support system. So we're going to implement a support system for the mentorship program, and we're going to train them on them. Training is going to be conducted every first Friday of the month for the next year. What's beneficial to that is that everybody stays refreshed. Everybody understands that this is a high importance asset, and on top of that, it's helping everybody. And hopefully by the end of 5 months, everybody will be trained. So every Navy recruiter is expected to be trained on this from the schoolhouse as well. So by the time that they reach naval recruiting, they already understand the process and they can move on further from there. The next one is just quarterly training, doing quarterly training, assuring for maintenance, for any adaptations that might be needed for the solution is going to be necessary. No plan is perfect, but that's why contingencies are built, and that's why adaptations are made as well. You could adapt to a certain scenario where a recruiter, the market is just not doing well for a recruiter. So little things like that, little changes are going to make the difference here. So next, evaluation. So how do you evaluate such a thing? How do you evaluate mentorship? The truth is that in actuality, you can't without evaluating an individual. But Navy recruiting has a mission, and their mission is to put people into the Navy. So one of the ways to evaluate whether or not the solution is working properly is to identify whether or not Navy recruiting is making mission for the year, for the quarter, for the month, et cetera, et cetera. That is one of the ways to monitor whether or not this is working. Along with that, what's the morale like? What is the culture like in the environment? What's the environment like? So you could pick up from a place of business, anywhere you go. You could tell whether or not the morale is high or the morale is low. What we're also going to do with that is implement a survey, a quarterly survey. Hey, have you spoken to your mentor? Have you helped yourself? Do you have the tools to help yourself to advance the next cycle? Things like that are going to be able to help out. We're going to send surveys out every quarter, and then we're going to identify weaknesses in the plan and be able to tweak that as well. So the next part is going to be, what is the advancement of sailors? Are sailors actually making rank? Are sailors just laying? Are they not doing anything? So that's going to be important. Also, because you want people to advance, you want people to be successful. Successful people breed successful people. So, in other words, if a recruiter is doing really well, he's going to train somebody to do really well as well. And I believe that is what's going to happen. So that's going to be a big part of whether or not to see if that's going to be successful. The next part is the qualifications. Are recruiters qualifying the way that they should? Are they getting their advanced recruiter qual? Are they going to getting their officer recruiting quals? Are they getting their leading petty officer qualifications? Those all matter as well, because you want people to take the next step in responsibility. So if this is all working together, then you should have more than enough people getting qualified at one time. So all in all, there's a couple of questions that I wrote down that are going to be important, and those questions are: is a recruiter performing at or above expectations for the sake of performance evaluations? Are recruiters advancing to the next rank? Are recruiters receiving qualifications in a timely manner? Are recruiters growing professionally and personally? So hopefully the goal is that all these questions are answered in a yes, and then in a year time, we're hoping to evaluate the process and tweak it a little bit if need be. So um, I do thank you for listening today. Again, we covered the problems, what they were, the retention rate. We spoke about the lack of efficiency, advancement for sailors, and a lack in mentoring and training. And I spoke about the solution, which is to implement a mentoring program that is going to help sailors advance. That's going to help them to train to be recruiters, better recruiters. And in turn, it's going to boost morale. It's going to create better efficiency in Navy recruiting, and it's going to allow the morale to increase because business is taken care of. Let's fake it. Let's face it. Sailors love their liberty, and a happy sailor is a sailor who's at home. So, and again, the solution, implementing the solution. We spoke about how we're going to implement the solution, and I think it'll be very effective if we go that route. If we have mentoring sessions in that time frame. We spoke about the evaluation process, which is going to be probably the most important part of this process after actually implementing the solution, because you want to be able to evaluate whether or not you're going to be doing well or not. So, I hope that we're all on the same page and we could all decide to go on with this proposal. But if not, I understand. Thank you for your time and have a good day.